Welcome back to In Focus SoCal. Conversations surrounding reparations dates back to even before slavery came to an end in the United States. Abolitionists and Quakers often argued that freed slaves should be entitled to some form of compensation for the free labor they provided. Economists have estimated that meaningful reparations could cost between $10 and $12 trillion overall, helping to close the racial wealth gap that exists today. My next guest is Senator Sen.Bradford, chair of the California Legislative Black Caucus, who is working to start repairing the harms of centuries of slavery and the lingering effects. Senator Bradford, thank you for joining me on In Focus SoCal for Black History Month and to continue the conversation about reparations.
Thank you for having me, Tanya. My pleasure.
So, Senator, last year you were appointed to California's Reparations Task Force, which met most recently at the end of January. What was discussed during those 2 days, and what's next on the agenda for the task force?
I mean, we looked at all the historical ramifications that slavery has caused in this country. We looked at, just in our recent meeting, the impacts of mental health, the technology gaps that exist, medical issues that are impacting African Americans, both mentally and physically, from over 200 years of slavery. Looked at redlining as it relates to property ownership, a myriad of issues. We're now going to, in our next meeting, going to look at the criminal justice system and how that has unjustly impacted African Americans in this country for over 250 years.
And the task force has until summer of 2023 to deliver a reparations proposal to the legislature that will include a formal apology, potential compensations, and other remedies. Are there any ideas that have been brought up so far that you think are an absolute must to include in the final proposal?
Without a doubt. First and foremost is some kind of homeowners assistance for those African Americans who have been denied home ownership from the fact that they couldn't get market rate loans or loans at all, the redlining that prevented African Americans from purchasing homes. So I think some type of first-time home buyers, or even if this is not your first time buying a home, some type of home down payment assistance. Also continuing education. I really think reparations should mirror what we've tried to do with the GI Bill and provide continued and free education at our UC and our CSUs, and ongoing health care and child care for descendants of slaves. So it's a lot that we can put on the table. And then it might be some instances where there will be direct cash reimbursement to individuals, or cash payments, I should say, to individuals who are descendants of slaves. So we're looking at a variety, but I think those top three of homeowner assistance and healthcare and education is a must.
In order to ensure that Black communities across the state are able to voice their opinions and provide input, the task force is partnering with several organizations to host public listening sessions. Why is community engagement critical in accomplishing the task force's mission?
I think it's important. We can't do it in a vacuum. And we have to hear from diverse individuals with diverse ideas. So to think that this 9-member task force has all the answers would be doing all of us a great disservice. It's critical that we have everybody's opinion and voice at the table, so we can really craft a piece of legislation or a remedy, I should say, or an answer that will, address a myriad of concerns and ideas that clearly exist right now. So I love the part of the community engagement and the opportunity for us to hear from the public as to what they think reparations should look like.
One act of reparation that you were involved in was Senate Bill 796, which gives Los Angeles County the legal authority to transfer Bruce's Beach and Manhattan Beach back to the descendants of Willa and Charles Bruce. There's currently a lawsuit seeking to stop this transfer, and we're waiting to see what will happen in the coming weeks. What are your thoughts about what's happening with Bruce's Beach?
Well, first, I'm excited to be the author of 796 to afford the county and the state of California to right a wrong that happened to the Bruce family well over 100 years ago. Now, this lawsuit is not surprising. It's kind of like it's in concert and where America has been when we ever try to right the wrongs that have happened to African Americans. There's always someone saying, "Oh no, we're not responsible for this." So I'm hoping the court's going to do the right thing and throw this lawsuit out. But I think it's an example of what we can do as a state and as a nation to right the wrongs that have happened to many families who own property and it was taken away from them. An example of other communities that are trying to make corrections and right the wrongs is Santa Monica. They just recently passed the ordinance, as you well know, the 10 freeway that runs all the way up to Santa Monica. Most of where that freeway stops in Santa Monica, that was a Black community in Santa Monica, and all that property was taken away from them. The city of Santa Monica is now working to find the heirs and former property owners and try to give them opportunity to reclaim or purchase property in Santa Monica. So I think it's an example of what we can do as a state and as a nation to right some horrible atrocities that happened to African Americans simply because the color of their skin. But another piece of property and an issue I'm working on in the legislature is Allensworth. Colonel Allensworth, it was a town that was formed in 1908. Totally financed, developed, designed, and managed and governed by African Americans. It predated Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it was taken away from African Americans by cutting off the water supply, poisoning the wells, and moving the train stop that ended all commerce in this community. This community was doing thousands of dollars of revenue in the early 1900s. And if we're excited about what we were able to do with Bruce's Beach, we should want to know the story of Allensworth. It's an American tragedy that happened right here in the state of California. So that's something else also I'm going to be working on this year.
And before we let you go, I want to know, how are you planning to celebrate Black History Month, and are you honoring anyone in particular?
I'm honoring a stalwart leader in the community, President Keith Curry, who's the president of Compton Community College. Since his leadership, he has done yeoman's work in bringing the college out of receivership and has gotten it financially sound, enrollment's up. So he's going to be my unsung hero this year. And I'm just going to continue I'm introducing a resolution on the Senate floor in recognition of Black History Month. And I want to continue to tell the story because many people would have you believe that Black history is part of this whole critical race theory that people are trying to say, oh, you can't talk about that. Well, America has a problem when it comes to race. As Congressman Akeem Jeffries stated, when it comes to America has a genetic birth defect when it comes to recognizing race and all the contributions that African Americans have contributed to this country. So hopefully we can celebrate and recognize all the amazing contributions that African Americans have made to this country and to the world as a whole. So that's what I hope to do.
Well, as many people say, Black history is American history, and we should be celebrating Black history every month. So, Senator Bradford, it is always a pleasure having you on In Focus SoCal, and happy Black History Month.
Thank you very much. Same to you.